Chris Eubank Jr, Simon, your friend and mine, wasted no time in calling out Golovkin, saying, come back, let's do it. You know, you had a great run, come back to middleweight, let's fight for those belts.
Well, he makes. I mean, I thought, Addy, you did a brilliant interview with Chris Eubank on DAZN.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good interview. I think Chris has come across really well. I've always been a slight derider of his, but I think he's come across very well in the build-up to this. I think, with all due respect to Conor Benn, who I really like both as a young man and as a fighter, I think this is a very unwise fight for him to have taken. I think if Chris Eubank is focused and ready to go, he wins this fight. But going back to the question, Chris Eubank talks about fighting world champions and then takes domestic fights because he gets paid money. You know, and what he's trying to navigate is a route to perhaps a vacant title. I don't know if that's what Chris Eubank thinks winning a world title involves, then that's up to him. But the bottom line is he's giving Conor Benn a lecture about how he doesn't fight at levels. Well, you fought George Groves and you fought Billy Joe Saunders. You got beat by both of them. So you can fight at those levels, but you lost. Yeah. So you can keep giving Conor Benn the lecture. Conor Benn's fought decent fighters as well. Granadas, Algieri, Van Weerden, they're all decent fighters. They might be on their way down. It's a fascinating fight, and it was a really, really good interview you did.
In fact, Addy, you hosted the face-off, didn't you, between Conor and Eubank Jr. recently. What was that like for everybody listening around the country? I mean, when it starts, sure, the very nature of it is they're going head-to-head, they're nose-to-nose. But what is it like in the build-up when they both come in at the same time? What happens?
Yeah, they both come in at the same time. It was a whole day of sort of press for them. So they're almost crisscrossing each other anyway, and their security are trying to make sure they don't actually see each other until the press conference and then until the face-off. And look, credit to both. It was a long day. The face-off was the last thing they did, and I kind of was sort of angling for the face-off to be the first thing so we get the best out of both of them in terms of energy. Chris is, as a pro, he's done this type of thing before. He's obviously a lot more experienced than Conor. And I just knew, just from the press conference, that Chris was going to, quote-unquote, win the face-off, if you like, because I knew he was going to get under the skin of Conor Benn, and Conor was just ready to go. It was very similar, and look, we're at the same age where we remember their dads. They're so similar to their dads, where Nigel just wants to rip off the head of Chris Eubank Sr., and I could see Conor wanted to do the same thing to Junior. Chris is fantastic, and that's what annoys me about Chris Eubank so much. Watching him in the face-off and then watching it back, he's so good at speaking. He's such a good talker, and if you would have told me 10 years ago that this guy wouldn't be, you know, whether or not he's a long-lasting world champion is another question, but a world champion, and selling out the O2.
He ain't going to win world championships by talking, is he?
No, he's not, but he would sell out the O2. I thought he could easily sell out the O2 arena. I thought he could be a superstar, and he's just not got
charisma. I do think that Conor Benn's more articulate than his father, and I do think in the interview that he did and the face-off he did, he was as robust and as articulate in times as he's not interested in Chris Eubank's sex life. He's not interested in anything that Chris Eubank wants to put across the table to him. He's only interested in the fact that I'm going to deal with you. I think it's a fascinating fight. I think it's a great fight. I think it's a shame that it's a fight that hasn't got something real attached to it, because as much as these boys want to say it, the reason why they're getting paid this money is because of their dad's names, and they should want to break out of that cycle. But if you're going to get paid £4 million a fight or whatever they're getting paid, they're going to take it.
Don't break out the cycle.
Yeah, honestly, you're right. I mean, the two dads' fights were for world titles, both middleweight and super middleweight. There is nothing on the line in terms of that. And if it wasn't for the names, these guys wouldn't be getting in the ring with each other. I think it's a risky fight for Conor.
Who wins?
You have to favour Chris. Honestly, I'd have to go with the bigger, stronger guy who's done it, has fought at a higher level. This is the big risk. But again, it's that risk reward. They're rolling the dice on Conor. If Conor wins, then it's liftoff. He's a superstar immediately. If he loses, I guess, and it's not damaging, he can go back to 147. If Chris loses to Conor,
he's done.
Then he should just continue playing poker and
go
to
he said he's
America.
going to do that, isn't he? He said, I have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And he has nowhere to go. And they'll make some scenario about the fact that when they actually go in on fight night, there's not a difference between their weights.
Well, he's got that huge apartment in Vegas to go to, which annoys you intensely.
No, because I want to talk to him about boxing. I don't want to hear about what Vegas
but that's what annoys you about him, because he talks about
is that what annoys you about him?
No, what annoys me about him is that, and I've become more of an admirer the more I've listened to him over the last year or so. What annoys me about him is he writes checks that he never ends up cashing, right? In terms of, I want to make a world title fight. Well, Liam Williams isn't a world title fight. You know, these aren't world title fights. You're not taking fights because you want to be a world champion. You're taking fights because you want to get paid for them, which is fine because that's the business you're in. But don't dress it up in a different way, because I didn't like the idea that he sat there waving his betting slip or his £5 note at Billy Joe Saunders, who did step into a world title fight against probably the elite fighter. Right? Yeah. So come on now.
100% agree with Simon for the first time. 100%. Normally,
I know.
It's 90, 70, 60. I agree with him just because.
Mind you, when you wrote checks, you could have done with someone taking the penalty.
Oh yeah, we could do with not being made of rubber.
No, he's right. Look, Chris is available to fight in two divisions, 160 or 168, where there are big names, big money fights, and he doesn't fight anyone.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing. But we'll see. If he gets past this
do you
one,
think
we'll see.
Chris Eubank wins it?
I think a good big one will always beat a good small one. And I think Chris Eubank is a good big one to a certain level. I think Conor Benn has taken a big risk by doing this. And I hope he doesn't get any damage as a result of it. Because I said to him when I saw him, and it's a wrong comparison, but the analogy's there. I never liked Kell Brook stepping out against Gennady Golovkin because he got damaged in that fight, lost his world title next fight to Errol Spence. Now, I know, and Conor said to me, well, he ain't Gennady Golovkin. And I said, you ain't Kell Brook yet either. So you taking this fight is a comparable that I think is unwise for you. But if you're going to get £3.5 million, I suppose... That's what you're going to
take
get.
it, haven't you? You got to take it. Ade, stay with us. We go into the final part today, just after 1:45.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.